Hello and welcome back to the Advancing Healthcare Innovation Show. I am your host, Michael Stamatinos. Welcome. If you're new to us, we are super excited because we are having some incredible conversations with real leaders that are painstakingly shaping the future of healthcare. And we're really passionate around access, leadership, innovation, and innovation adoption. If it's your first time tuning in, let me just take a step back, tell you what we're trying to do here. So our focus is about bringing real stories of real people that are in the trenches, making things happen and innovating. And we want to give them the space and give them the format to be able to share their stories, share some of their learnings with our community and ultimately with the world. And if you haven't had an opportunity to check out any of the historical interviews that we've done, make sure you hit the subscribe button now, wherever you're at, so that any of the new interviews can go right into your inbox. And our field, it's constantly evolving. Things are moving very quickly. And it's crucial to have leaders who can envision a better future, that are eagerly embracing innovation to address a lot of these pressing challenges. And today we've got a pretty unique opportunity to dive into a conversation focusing around compassion and resilience and transformation. And Cara McCarty Abbott is the founder and the CEO of BetterLeave. Cara's mission with BetterLeave is to deliver grief and loss inclusive care through connected experience that supports individuals and families in their most delicate times. So before she stepped into her current role, Cara was sort of a fulcrum of innovation within the HR world, co-founding CodePilot, a developer training and recruitment platform that saw its successful exit when acquired by AngelList in 2020. And she isn't just an accomplished entrepreneur, she's a thought leader. She contributes to Forbes HR Council. She's also an advisor for the Founder Institute, and she's just an interactive member within our community. So our conversation today promises to enlighten you around how you can foster supportive environments for those dealing with grief and loss. And I hate to say it, but we all have to deal with this. So this isn't something that's going away anytime soon. So Cara, great to see you. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Thanks, Michael. What an incredible introduction. Thank you for that. So happy to be here and chat with you. And you're right. You hit the nail right on the head. Grief, we all experience it. It's a universal human it's part of our human existence. So hopefully if there's some nuggets that we share today, somebody can take away and say, okay, I've been there. That helped me.
Yeah. So most companies have a starting point. However, Better Leave has a deeply human one.
Hmm.
Would you mind sharing the defining moment and the experience that ignited your passion to really revolutionize bereavement care?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say if I have to talk about the very beginning moment, it was when I was flying home from a to Christmas for the holidays with my family in Southern Indiana, and I got a call when I land to come to the hospital. And it was an unplanned call. We drive straight there, and my mom was in the ICU. And I think that moment, that experience of arriving at the ICU, understanding that something was wrong with my mom. She was, couldn't speak. She had a sore throat. To then undergoing emergency surgery and being escorted into a small windowless room
Hmm.
in a hospital system over the holidays. That my mom was diagnosed with a terminal cancer and given weeks to
Wow.
live. I think that's the moment, that experience of a sudden and unplanned life
Mm.
event. I think was probably the very first catalyst and light bulb moment of like, this was an incredibly difficult process that I was not prepared for, nor did
Right.
anyone really help me in that journey at that time. So that was the catalyst.
Wow. I love the name. Is there maybe an inspiration behind the name Better Leave? And I guess how does it sort of reflect the mission and values of the organization?
Totally. Well, not being a marketer, I will say that. This was like quite painful and painfully hard to do, to create
Yeah.
a name. Um, I was thinking about the word leave, in the sense of like leaving this earth in a better place, leaving this world in a better place. And so better leave was just how can we help equip people for um, people when they leave. So
Mm.
BetterLeave came into existence, and we've had perspectives and opinions on both sides of that. Of like, this is amazing, it totally resonates. To um, what does better leave mean, and is it bereavement leave administration? No, it's not. It's
Right.
actually more focused on the care delivery of grief and loss. But overall, like, it really, our mission is to provide access, and increase access into grief care, and we do this through this incredible network that we have of licensed clinical social workers and grief therapists and certified grief coaches and end of life doulas and spiritual chaplains and guides. And we're trying to build something really incredible. And so, Better Leave, I think, is just a way that no matter what experience you're going through, if you're grieving, we have the team and the tools to help you through that. So,
So since our first conversation, I have gone down a wormhole, just truth be told. And so bereavement has traditionally been addressed in silos, and it's often disconnected from comprehensive healthcare.
mm,
How is Better Leave bridging this gap to ensure, more holistic support? And what has been, I guess, maybe the most significant hurdles like within this pursuit?
sure. Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head, right? It's critically underserved. And typically when you say silos, you think about all of these points, interactions that you have
Yeah.
within, let's say, a health system. I
Right.
had my first interaction with the ICU. Then I had another interaction with actually an ER team at one point. Then I had an interaction with the oncologist and their team. And then I had an interactive with the supportive team, palliative, and then finally hospice. So I actually had multiple touch points across different teams. And there was really no consistency around the experience. So at some points, it wasn't even discussed or even supported or thought of. And so we really
Not
tried to
discussed.
not as like a family support mechanism. More of like, what are the outcomes? What are the clinical patient outcomes? Like, this person has so much to live, but nobody ever said, like, how are you doing, family caregiver? Like, do you need support during this time? A lot of it, and rightfully so, is focused on the patient. But I think there's, patient-centered care, and then there's patient and family-centered care. And I think at this moment in time, when you have, let's say, a serious or terminal illness, it really needs to be patient and family-centered care.
Hmm.
Um, and so we help kind of bridge that gap. We work across teams really collaboratively. So if we are working with a hospice group, most likely we're working with a hospice and palliative care group within that same network or hospital, or health system, for example. And that really helps because we can make sure that no matter where people are in that journey of their illness, the family member is getting the same consistent quality care and access to our network. So that is definitely a big goal of ours, is to kind of bridge the silos and bring those together. And Better Leave as a team can kind of work collaboratively across an organization.
It just sounds like there's a lot of there's a fusion happening between empathy and innovation. So
Right.
how have you been able to harness technology to really to enhance rather than detract from the human experience, of grief support?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think when we think about the evolution also of the changing demographics and I'd say generations, technology
Mm.
is a part of what we kind of, as consumers, expect now, in our generation. And so we knew that we wanted to build a tool that was really easy to use, no matter the age that you're going through, but it could provide you with self-service tools, tips, checklists, like really actionable things to help you through grief and loss. But in addition to the tool that we built, we also knew having and growing and building this incredible provider network of interdisciplinary experts was also going to be our superpower. So together, we have this platform that within a matter of clicks and a matter of days, you can get connected to an expert. And again, I mentioned some of the ranges of experts, but it's over a dozen different specialties. And grief is different for everyone. While grief is a universal experience, grief is processed very differently by different individuals. Some people want self-service. Some people want more mindfulness, meditation, yoga, body work, physical
Right.
manifestations of processing grief.
Hmm.
People want
Hmm.
talk therapy, right? Talk therapy is
Right.
like is very is helpful and utilized. And so we really think about how can we provide the best experience across what people are going through at that moment and the modality. So if that's texting us, calling us, getting on a Zoom virtual, like you and I are having a call, or going through our platform and self-serve tools that way. We have several different modalities of ways you can access our grief support.
And those that are currently accessing BetterLeave, do you find that they want to have that human connection, where they want to have an individual that they're going to that's sort of their Sherpa, for lack of a better word, or do you see more folks that are gearing towards the self-service aspect? I guess what is the data telling you thus far? I know it's early days, but just curious if you're
Yeah,
seeing any patterns emerge.
yeah, absolutely. Um, Having a that white glove, having that human touch is important,
Yeah.
especially at this pivotal moment in somebody's life. When my mom was diagnosed, I had no idea what to do. I had no idea where to turn. And I think a lot of people that are going through grief and actively going through a serious or terminal illness and supporting a family member through that, they might not have any idea where to start. And so having a guide, having that Sherpa, as you mentioned, can kind of help put in maybe some really compassionate, supportive touch points of like, here's the process. Maybe here's what to expect in the process, or here's how to take care of yourself in this process, or whatever that might be. But it helps, absolutely, like you said, it helps guide people. And hopefully after the loss helps them manage that experience better. I think people sometimes think about bereavement or grief support after someone has passed away. And I love to say that's actually like preparing for loss, anticipatory grief, that's just as important, helping you through after somebody has passed. And so the data definitely tells us that having our provider team is really beneficial to the outcomes of people managing and their grief and also improving their emotions and symptoms and kind of that health and well-being. We see an improvement significantly if people can engage with us even before.
And what
Um,
does that look like? Give us some more context. Like, can you share a story around someone engaging? Because I look at that as, this is just my own interpretation, but like pre-grief grief. So you hear this devastating news,
yeah.
and then all of a sudden it's like you're processing the loss. So not that this is my own personal therapy session, but you know, my
No.
sister, when she was diagnosed with cancer, it was you know,
Mhm.
that initial news was heavy, like
Yeah,
really heavy. Are you saying that folks can access resources and have access to tools to navigate through those circumstances prior to the actual event, someone passing?
absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
Cool.
And I think that's a really I think it's an important and pivotal moment in someone's time. Um, Especially because in a lot of cases we're sandwiched caregivers, right? Like maybe we have our kids, maybe we're working, we're balancing and managing a lot of things in our lives. And so processing that news or that sudden or anticipatory grief or loss can be really hard as you're
Mm.
managing the rest of your life. And so we allow people, we hold space for them, we give them an opportunity to process that. And I think another thing I love to dispel is that talking to someone or getting resources for support doesn't mean you have like a mental health issue. Let's just like talk
Yeah.
about that real quick. Let's talk about that. Grief is a universal experience that we all go through. When we talk to our members, we get feedback like, thank you so much for proactively reaching out to us, checking in on me, seeing how I'm doing, like giving me the tools and the resources I need. It absolutely doesn't mean like you've failed, you can't handle it, that there's something wrong with you or that you need like, clinical therapy because you're grieving. So that is something that we feel really passionate about, that I love to say. It just means that it's just another piece of your life that if you can get an expert to help you with, to process and overcome, like it's just like any other piece of your life where you can get an expert in. And we have, and grief is a specialty, right? It's not like a one size fits all. So absolutely, we really love to help people even before they've gone through an event because it's important.
You mentioned something earlier that triggered a thought. So grief and bereavement, sometimes they carry deep societal stigmas.
Totally.
And I'm just sort of curious, I mean, how is BetterLeave working to support individuals and shift some of these societal attitudes towards loss and mourning?
Yeah. Oh man. It's a big thing to chip away at, I would say. Especially when you think about changing like a societal view on grief and loss. And the US specifically has a unique view, I'd say, on grief and loss. I think how we're changing that is by partnering with the groups that we do, like Chesapeake Regional Healthcare or Sonder Hospice or Lovewell Hospice. Like these are groups that are helping us, I'd say, shift large populations,
Mm,
right? And they're showing that when you invest in innovation and tools and resources and grief support, and it's a part of
right.
the process,
Yeah.
that it reduces the stigma of like having to go search maybe for your own support mechanism. So I would say that those partnerships are really critical to helping us chip away. Um, I would say another key thing of
So what's made those partnerships so effective? Like, because people use the word partnership and they toss it out like it's just a word, but it's much more than that. What has made those partnerships meaningful in the journey of Better Leave?
absolutely. I'd say we feel like an extension of their teams. I think I mentioned this earlier, like
Mm,
we are pretty collaborative in the support that we provide, making sure that we're delivering right care at the right time with the right message. But we also love to talk to their interdisciplinary teams as much as possible as to hear what's going on. Hey, have there been any updates, or is there anything specific that we can mention that's helpful? Are there any specific types of loss or anticipatory loss that has come through that you want us to focus on? Like for example, maybe somebody's having a hard time dealing with a loved one that has dementia, that is also going through hospice. How can we provide support around that specific individual's experience? So, I
right.
mean, when we say partner, like we really partner with these groups. We embed pretty deeply. We're not just like a referral partner that gets passed on and to this next group that has no connectivity
Right.
back to our partnerships. Like we're pretty embedded.
But how did that come to be? Because, when you're new, to get that entrenched, that takes something. Can you sort of maybe unpack that a little bit more?
Well, yeah, when we started the company, we in my background is really focusing on providing better leave to HR teams. And so from the very beginning, we plugged in heavy with HR teams. We would help them build their bereavement care programs, their bereavement leave policies, all the
Mm,
enablement education. And so we really knew that embedding heavy with our partners was really key. And then it was a natural evolution. Actually, one of the first hospice groups we worked with was to support their employees. And then we made that transition to say, well, we're supporting their employees going through grief and loss. It's really natural for us to think about what is that evolution to support their families, not just the employees, but their families going through grief and loss. So it was a really natural evolution to start supporting their family members through grief and loss. But we knew from the very beginning that we had to really embed ourselves to make sure we were part of the culture. We're part of
mm,
the culture. We're part of the mission. We're really a kind of an extension of the team in order to provide the best possible care that we could. And the more personalized care, and we talk about personalization in healthcare, it's really important. So we individually personalize every experience that we proactively, a human being reaches out via text to someone. And so we know, is who the family member is that passed away, and we'll say, we're really sorry that your dad Jim passed away. Like we know this can be really tough. Like here's what we see that's really helpful at this time. Like just that alone, it goes a long way versus if I were just to say, we are a partner and we help through grief. Let us know if you need anything. It's like we don't know them, they don't know us. It feels really like icky,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
there's
It's
so
like, you
that's
don't know
really
me. You
important.
haven't, there's no personalization, but it sounds like what you've been really diligent and intentional about is like you're kind of creating these mini feedback loops like all the time. That
All the time. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I think that customer, and you say customer experience when you think like, consumer products, but that patient and family experience, really the family experience, is really important to us. And that family experience is also really important to hospitals and health systems and hospice groups. I mean, they're measured on family satisfaction of that experience, right? And they get surveys and they get rating. You, as an individual consumer, can actually go and see the ratings of different hospitals and
Yes.
hospice groups. I don't know if the average consumer knows that, but you can do that, and it's all publicly available and easy to
Yes.
sort. And they're ranked and rated, and so those are really important. And so we obsess over the experience, family experience. And I think in turn, that makes us a really good partner because our partners know that we're obsessing over that feedback and that experience.
How do you collect that feedback? What are the mechanisms that you use to collect the feedback? And then what does that conversation look like when you're going back to your partners, i.e. customers, to share this?
Yeah, we have an incredible care partner team. And our care partner team really makes sure that the individuals are getting the right care that they need, and B, that we are always checking back in with them to see how they're doing and to see if there's anything we can do better. And to see how if our customers are satisfied, if our individual family members are satisfied. And they do that every day, all day. And so we have a care partner team that helps us do that.
So what's been maybe if you can, could you share like a key piece of feedback that you and the team received from the community or from some of your partners that led to maybe a pivot or an enhancement in your service?
Yeah, pivot or enhancement. It's a great question. We're always thinking about how we can enhance things. We love product feedback, especially in the tool, like what's working or what's not working. As we've been growing our provider team, I think increasing also the amount of interdisciplinary providers we have has been a really good piece of feedback. So, music therapy, art
Interesting.
therapy, different types of skills and experts where it's not just your traditional talk therapy, I think has been really good feedback. And we've increased our team to include those type of skills. And so we really want to make sure that we're providing people with the grief care that they need at the right time. I love the feedback when we get that said, like, my provider has significantly like improved my life, or like I can go back to work now healthier, happier, faster, or I didn't know how I could get out of bed, but this person helped. A really good one that I can remember is I'm sitting in the room with all my mom's things. I don't know how to get rid of all of her things. And I remember connecting her with that person with a coach. And the feedback was like, wow, I had a real process on like what to get rid of, what to save, what to donate, and how to honor my mom in that
Yeah.
process of kind of getting around. So it is all across the board of how we help people. But I really remember that one because there's a lot of stuff out there. And like, I remember my mom died. It took me months to go through her things. And that's like a big, big lift and a big task. And so having someone help me go through that, I was like, that would have been amazing. But yeah, that's some of the feedback.
Every innovation, there's like some sort of a force that doesn't want it to happen. You're up against something, obstacles, whenever. Is there maybe an unexpected challenge that you and the Better Leave team have encountered? And I guess how did you maybe sort of turn it into an opportunity for growth or change?
I mean, we talked about this from the very beginning, educating hospitals and health systems and hospice groups on why they should really focus and dedicate time and energy and money into resources into the family experience of bereavement. Um, I think it has been a big challenge. It's not happening today. So it's not like we could go in and say, oh, just swap this process with us, or swap this widget with our tool, or like, switch vendors. Like we had to really go and say, this is really important. This is a huge gap. Let us tell you why, and how this can really make a difference in your business, and the feedback that you get, and the reviews that you get online, and how this could really help the family experience. And that family experience is going to go and turn into more word of mouth referrals and things like that. So I think that has been a big challenge, is we've had to educate. We've had to educate a lot of people on like why they should care. So I'd say that's been one of the hardest things, but we've turned that into our mission, right? Like that gets us up every morning. It's like when people are like this, when we can get the feedback of this is amazing and we share that, it's like, oh, that's so good. Like we knew that there was a gap. We knew it was missing. We know people love our product and our services. It's just, yeah, convincing partners and groups that this is a need. Like this is a really big need. I'd say it's one of the been the most interesting and rewarding hurdles, I'd say.
So you're so in it as a CEO, the day to day. Is it, how has it been peering into the future? What do you see bereavement looking like years from now, or maybe even a decade from now? Like how far do you peer into the future?
Yeah, I see in the future that bereavement care is a standard form of care that you would get at any touch point within any health system or hospital. That if someone has been diagnosed with a serious or terminal illness, you are getting the support and resources immediately.
Hmm.
And everybody is educated on the value of that and why. And if it's a tool like ours, or a similar tool, or if it's a team, if it's the BetterLeave network, I'd say that is going to become a standard form of care, and an expected standard form of care within the healthcare system. That's my goal. And I think people are starting to raise it. They're starting to expect it, especially in palliative and hospice, like where people are actively dying every single day. I
Yeah,
think people really expect a high level of continuous bereavement support. And so I think that we're going to see that pretty soon.
that's really encouraging to hear. How can folks follow you, follow the work that you and your team are doing? Like give us like a little commercial, because I know we're kind of getting towards the end of our time, but just tell us how we can kind of keep track of all the cool things you guys are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. We're online, we're on social, so follow us on LinkedIn, or Facebook, or wherever you feel like joining our community. Absolutely. You can find us at betterleave.com. You can reach out to us at any time. Hello at betterleave.com. We'd love to chat with any partners within hospice, palliative, supportive care teams, even ICU teams, to provide bereavement care. So yeah, reach out to us anytime.
Well, that's awesome. We're all about taking action. So I think if you were to sort of suggest an action point to the community, to someone who's listening, what's something that they can take away from this conversation that they can actually implement?
Mm. I would say, no matter how you're feeling, it's okay. And if you need help, don't feel like you've failed, and don't feel embarrassed, and don't feel like there's something wrong with you. If you're grieving, find the support that you need. Um, I get this a lot where people have lost pets, and the stigma around pet loss is much higher around getting support you need. And so I'm constantly telling people, like, if you want to join a support group, if you want to talk to someone about your pet dying, you absolutely should do that. And there are teams like ours that support pet loss as well. But that's a big one. You shouldn't have to feel embarrassed, or you shouldn't have to feel like anything's wrong with you by wanting to get some tools and tips on how to process your grief and manage your grief, and experience that. So I think that'd be my nugget of takeaway is it's okay.
That's pretty great. That's really great. And Kara, it just seems as though that this isn't this is a mission. This is something that you want to create legacy around. So when you kind of look back and say, hey, years from now, what do you hope people, your customers, partners will say about the impact that BetterLeave had on the way sort of society views and supports bereavement.
Yeah. I hope that it becomes a standardized form in the continuum of care
Yeah.
within hospitals and health systems. I would love in the future to say like BetterLeave is the care team is the leading network, um, giving people access into very quickly and easily a interdisciplinary collaborative group of individuals. Even if I look at like doulas, birth doulas are have been around for centuries and ages, and they're now
Yes.
just starting to become I'd say a really recognized reimbursable form of care. I
Yes.
would love end of life doulas and death doulas and people focused in that work to get the same recognition. And so I think we'll get there. And I want to be that network, and I want to be that provider group where people know they can come and get that kind of support in the team. So yeah, that's my wish. That's my hope.
Well, Cara, it's been awesome having you on the show and having a great conversation with you. So, for those that have tuned in today, if you found this particular content helpful for you, our one ask is, would you mind sharing it? Let us know what you thought was helpful. What will you take? What will you actually implement? Engage with it as a community. It's about getting stuff done. So, look forward to having you on the show in the future and hearing progress. So, catch up with you soon.
Thanks, Michael.
You bet.